Happy Super Bowl Sunday, everyone. It's a special day today because our friend PNW Trout Slayer from Washington requested me to actually set up, a tutorial for a Texas rig. So the first step is to find the hook that suits your needs, but a few things that you'll probably find is an EWG or an extra wide gap hook. I made a video out of this and how it works and what happened to me the first time I used it, and I will probably not use it again, but there's always a solution to the problem. So this is an extra wide gap hook. This is a worm hook. So as the name implies, it's for worm bait. There's a few types out there too, like I think there's 2 or 3 more, which I never use them. This is my go-to hook, and I don't think I will change ever because I've always had success, setting it to the fish's mouth. So I used the worm hook. And the second thing that we need, depending on how and where and what you fish, is your leader line. I hope I can focus this. Come on, focus. There you go. This is actually a mono. I've used monos a lot because they're cheaper, and the water in my area is like green and it's tinged, green. I've had success with it. Really, like you should use fluorocarbon. I do have fluoro here. This is a fluoro that I use from Kastking. So again, it's a preference. Another thing that you need for a Texas rig is definitely your sinker. There's different types of sinkers. When I was starting, I've always used a split shot, and that always worked. So here are the different types of sinkers that you can use. You have the 2 split shots, the clam split shot, and then the regular one. And then actually, I have never used this, but this is a titanium, and this is the regular, Texas rig bullet sinker. Either of these will work. I've used a lot of split shots because they're cheaper, but I've also caught a lot of fish with it. The problem is, well, when the fish bites it, sometimes you lose your sinker, and that's kind of like not too healthy for the environment and the fish. That's lead. To be honest with you, I'd rather use a titanium or the regular sinker, the bullet shape. So next year, I'm sure, or actually this season, I'm going to be using them more often than the split shot. But the split shot is good too when you want it to be nice and fast, and you can change your setup fast if you want to do that. But bullet sinkers are definitely the best. So the next piece of the puzzle, again, is your line actually. So I've been using braid because they're lighter. There's pros and cons about them. At some point, I'm sure I'm probably gonna discuss it, but I like braid because you can put more line in your spool. I'm using 1000 reel, so not much room in there. You want to use the smallest, but you also want to make sure that you can fish cover. So 10 pounds for me has been working really well. I pulled branches with it. I've never snapped it. I'm sure if you're trying to catch very finicky or small fish, you want to go smaller, but believe it or not, I've lost some big fish fishing with really small lines, and it's a preference. I mean, if you want to do BFS, go for it. Go for a smaller line. I'm sure, if you're fishing an area with no pickerel, not a lot of cover, you'll be fine. But we have pickerels in our area, and I've lost fish because of that. So far, a bass has not snapped this yet, but a pickerel definitely will easily snap a 10-pound line too. As a matter of fact, it snapped a 20-pound mono, and they're not even the biggest pickerel. So it's a preference. This is probably one of the reasons why I use mono instead of fluoro. But you know, fluoro is definitely the way to go. And the smaller, as you can get away with it, you know, especially in very finicky areas, go for the smallest line possible. But if you don't want to lose fish, like what I've been doing in the past, 10 pounds definitely makes a big difference for me. So I've been sticking with it. As a matter of fact, I can possibly get away with 8. And I just ordered 8 pounds, so I'll test it in this coming season. So let's get to it. I'm gonna use this just for example purposes. This is actually a green mono from Zebco. I got it on clearance for like $5 and it's like 600 yards. So I've been using it all year long, and again, you know, depending on the situation, definitely fluoro is the way to go because it's invisible, especially when, you know, the bite is very finicky, like now in winter. So the first thing I will do is actually attach the leader, to our, hope this is doable. I just have to be slow, I guess. And the knot that I use is actually an Alberto knot. There's a lot of tutorials out there, but I kind of modified it my way because I kept on like screwing it up. I've never lost actually a fish with an Alberto knot that is modified. I've lost a fish with my crappy Alberto knot regular, so this is how I do it. I'll show you how to actually tie it, and hopefully this video will make a justice. I will do justice for this purpose. So first things first, this is our leader line. The length of the leader line is actually very important too. I've read and checked and looked, and because like what I said, I'm trying to save money because fluoro is very expensive too. You can go as 2, 4, 6, 8 feet leader line depending on your fishing, like especially very clear water. So for the leader line, the length is very important too, of course. I've done my readings and it said 12 inches to like 18 inches is not a bad idea. You can go from 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 feet depending on the clarity of the water, and of course depending on the thickness of your line. You know, here in South Jersey, fish are not as big as in a lot of places, so you can really get away with a lot of things. Like again, as long as you're not fishing areas with pickerel, then I'll definitely do shorter or longer depending on the clarity of the water. But if you're using fluoro, you know, definitely use again, same thing, longer or shorter. In my experience, I've always just used around like between 12 and 18 inches. And there's also a reason why for that, because I don't want, you know, my leader to line connection to actually scrape off on the eyelet of your rod, because I'm sure through friction and time that will get compromised, and you don't want that when you're fishing. So, or you can do that and always change your line, which is again, if you have a shorter line, you don't really use that much, then it makes a big difference. So now let us work in our modified Alberto knot. So the first thing you're gonna do, let's focus this, is actually make a loop. You're gonna make a loop, and then you're gonna hold your main line and go on top. So I'm gonna go on top and put that tag and let it fall, and now I'm gonna grab, I will grab my loop. So now I have this tag that is hanging, right? And then you're gonna do 1 over 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. 5 should be plenty. I usually do 6 actually, so make it 6. So now you have this in your line. Again, this is my leader to the right. I'm sorry, my main line to the right. Main line to the right. And then my leader to the left. And then I'm going to grab it again and I'm going to come back. So now I'm going to come back and then start grabbing the other tip. And then I will usually do 12 or 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it's gonna look like this. And then on the 15th, you're gonna grab it and go under. You're gonna go under the first thing that I do is actually connect my leader line to the main line. So for demonstration purposes, because the hook is too small, I guess, in this preparation, I got a bigger twine. So this is gonna be our leader. You're gonna pinch it and make a loop like so. And then this yellow twine is gonna be our main line. So you're gonna pinch your loop and then go on top. So on top, inside. I want a longer line. I've been trying this actually, so super long like so. And then when it's on top, you're gonna pinch, and then you're gonna wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you got 5, and then you're gonna hold the base after the 5th one. Just like an Alberto, you're gonna come back up. 1, 2, in between 3, 4, 5. I usually do like 15, so just for demonstration purpose, I just did 5 on this. 15 seems to me strongest. I'm sure 12 or 10 is probably also fine, but I've done 15, but you don't want to overdo it because when it's overdone, it's hard to cinch. And now what I'm gonna do is go under. So make sure your main line is on that side, right? So that's gonna be on that side, and then go under. You can only do 1, but I always do 2. So under 1 to lock it, 2. Like so. At this point, I'm gonna wet it with saliva and then actually pull. And that's what will cinch the line. You're gonna try to pull and then pull them as hard as you can, but not too hard that it will break. That way it's gonna cinch. So it's gonna look like this. I'll show you. So your line is gonna look like this. Hopefully you can focus. Come on, focus camera. Focus, like that. And then you're gonna wet it with saliva, or I've seen people use chapstick, and then pull. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna wet this with saliva. So now you can pull it and cinch it. What I do usually is push the loops closer and then I can cinch it like so. Now when it's close to the tip, I can pull it so that they're all cinch. And then what you're gonna do is pull it to test it like so. Oh, it's so hard to focus with this thing. So it's gonna look like this. There it is. So this is a very, very strong line. I have never had problem with it, to be honest with you. I just use it. This is all I use when I'm connecting braid to a mono or fluoro. So here's our amazing modified Alberto knot. You're gonna do is you're gonna cut the tag, but before you cut your leader tag, I like to put in 3 or 4 overhands, and there's a reason for that, and I'm gonna show you why. So I'm gonna do overhand, and you want to do this overhand knot to your leader, not to your braid actually. So nice and simple. 1, 2, I say 3 because this is a 20-pound mono. 3, and then you're just gonna tighten it out like so, and it's kind of gonna look like that, but you want it tighter actually. So I'm gonna just take it off camera because it's so hard to do it in here, and then pull up like this. Actually, I can do it here a little bit. Pull up so it's kind of cinched to itself. Again, you don't want to overdo it. Always lubricate so that you don't scratch your line. Very, very important. So again, this is what it's going to look like. In kind of like a macro shot from the iPhone. The purpose of that knot to the leader is actually to prevent your sinker in hitting your main line. Remember, you're using a braid, and that sinker can slide up and down and can definitely damage your braid. So I'm going to show you a demonstration right now. I'm going to put our sinker. Again, I prefer the bullet sinker now because that split shot always vanishes. So you're going to put in your sinker just like so. Put it through. If I can, because it's dark in here, kind of. All right, I'm gonna do it here, off camera. I don't know if you remember my very first video, but when I looked at it, so the base of your sinker should actually face your hook. So the hook is going this way right here. This is what's going to your hook. This is what's going to your main line. So watch, when it slides up and down, you don't want that to hit your braid. So that's a stop actually. Some people, you can actually put a bead in there or a stop, but to me this is like the most economical and fastest way of doing it. So you do whatever you prefer. Anything works. This has worked for me the whole time, so I'm keeping it. This is actually the only knot that I know, because when I was fishing as a kid in the Philippines, this is all I was taught, and it's all I use. And I actually did a research on what do you call this knot, because there's no name in it in the Philippines. I think it's called snelling the hook. So I'm gonna show you how I do it, and I'm telling you, like, there's a reason why this is the only thing I use, because it's simple. I'm fast with it now. The more you practice, the more you become fast. Again, doesn't matter if it's a big fish or a small fish or any type of fish. Chances are, unless it's a barracuda, which is super sharp teeth, it will cut your line, but it's not gonna cut the snell. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use this twine again. Actually, I have a shorter one right here. Here's the twine, and here's our amazing hook. This is actually a 7/0 extra wide gap. I just told you about, like, I'm not going to use it, but this is the biggest I can find. I did buy a few of this for, so I thought it's going to be an awesome hook, I guess, but I've been using worm hook. I can't find a bigger worm hook, so I have this. This is just for demonstration purposes. So here's our amazing extra wide gap hook, and here's our, now we're going to signify this as our leader. First you're going to do, you're going to go under the hook. So the yellow twine now will signify our leader line because this is smaller. So what I'm going to do is, you have to go under for this to work better actually, and I'll tell you why. You're going to go under, and then you pull your leader line. If I can pull it, there you go. So this is the only hook that the only knot that I use. You're going to make a loop and pinch it like so. And then you're going to pinch it, right? I usually put a longer tag line, but in this purpose it's kind of short, and then you're going to pinch it. So you pinch the loop, and then you're going to go one, you're going to go start under, over, 2, 3, 4, because this is a bigger twine. I just did 4, but you can do as many as you want, as long as it fits. You don't want to overdo it either, because this actually is very strong. So I usually do 6 or 7, and then you're gonna go under the loop, and then you're gonna pull. Always lubricated with saliva or chapstick if you want, so that it doesn't, scratch your line, and then you're gonna pull as hard. So the purpose of this is actually one thing, because that hook has to sit like this when you're pulling it. So when you set that hook, it's always standing up, or not standing up, but it's always pointing up, or pointing sideways, or pointing down sometimes. So depending on when the fish bites, the best thing is like it goes to at the side of the mouth or the top. So when you set that hook, it goes up, down, or sideways, or down, I guess, and chances are you're gonna hook that fish. So this is the only way that I tie, my knot for my hook. It's pretty simplistic. It's very effective. I'm all about simplicity and speed when I'm fishing. So the more the fish pulls, the tighter this line becomes actually, or the knot. So it's very hard to break. And of course, we're using stronger leaders, so it will hold, again, unless it's a pickerel or a barracuda when you're salt fishing, or something that's very sharp teeth. It's definitely gonna cut your line first before your knot. So this, I guess, is called snelling the knot, and this is what I use in my setup. So I'm gonna do the setup for our Senko. So I finally tied the hook, and again, this is what it looks like. It's gonna be very durable. The more the fish pulls, the more it gets tight. And again, you don't want to compromise your line all the time, so I suggest changing your leader line whenever you get a fish bite, like pickerel, that's one, or bass. This can stand all day, but if you felt like it's, it has abrasions already, don't take the chance, because I have lost fish by not changing my leader line, because sometimes you get lazy. So, you know, that was a big bass. So another amazing tip I got from one of the fishermen I met, actually, because I told him I've been losing fish all the time. Uh, that's not good. And he said, well, go check the angle of your hook. So if you can see the tip of this hook, it's actually pointing down. And that's not good because you want to set the hook, right? So any type of hook you have, even though you're fishing for whatever fish you're trying to catch, including small fish like crappies and bluegill, he said always pull that hook up a little bit so that the angle is up, not down, which makes more sense. And that's the problem with EWGs, actually. As you can see, EWGs, I know it's extra wide gap, right? So again, the fish's flesh has to go through here for you to set this, but it's pointing down. So this area here, it's pretty parallel to each other. So you want that angle to be up a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is gonna save you a lot of fish. So the guy said you have to get your fishing pliers and pull it up without damaging, of course, the hook. So that little angle there, when it's pointing up a little, is gonna save you a lot of headache. So as you can see the difference now, you can even pull it a little bit further if you want, because I've done it yesterday. You know, I was crappie fishing and bluegill fishing, and I was just like setting hook on a very small hook, actually. So that millimeter size adjustment, it's gonna catch you more fish, and that's a proven fact. Well, so now that our line is set, it's time to put in the worm, right? Don't forget the Senko or any type of worm bait you have. All right, so this is the one that I've been using all season long. It's a watermelon Senko because I found it on Amazon on sale for like $4.99. They're usually like $10 a pack, very expensive. I mean, I've got so much bass with this thing, and I still have it. So I still have a pack or two for myself. Pretty easy. So we're gonna do it. It doesn't matter for I guess which side do you want to do. So you're gonna do like a few, like maybe a quarter inch, or actually it's gonna be dependent on your baser of the hook because it has to sit here. So since that's pretty short and shallow, I'm gonna do even shorter. I used to overdo this actually. And then you're gonna go through all the way to the tip, make it weedless, and then like so. I usually try to put the tip a little bit out, so when you set it, it's done. So that's what it looks like. Actually, I don't even know. This is probably why I've been catching all these bass, because I don't know standard way of doing it, and I always make it ugly. I know people do it so beautiful and perfect, but to be honest with you, mine works all the time. And there you go. That's a Texas rig right there. Texas rig and our amazing bullet. So this bullet sinker will slide up and down. And again, it's not going to go through your leader line and your main line. Come on, man. Focus for me. There you go. See? Your leader line, your main line. So it's going to slide. And you don't have to buy anything extra. You have a more simplistic setup. And that's your amazing Texas rig. Happy fishing, everyone. Actually, before I forget, there's a reason why you don't want your leader to be too long, because when you cast it, you want to have enough so that your connection is not going through your to the eye of your rod. So I'm going to try to reel this in a little bit. See what I'm saying. I'm going to show you what I meant by this. So this is what I'm saying. You don't want that connection to be rubbing against the tip, against your rod tip, or going through, because all that friction, all that pressure will eventually wear it out, and you don't want that. So whenever I cast, I want to make sure it's out here, not inside. This is actually a fairly smooth connection, kind of like an FG knot in a way, but I always try to cut it not too close. So for me, if I can protect that, connection, then it's going to last longer. It's not going to snap your line whenever you catch a fish, or it's not going to create any weak spots. So that's why I've never broken it actually. Whenever I get snagged, the thing that always breaks is mostly it's either my connection to the hook or something else. But I just tested it the other day. I got snagged and I pulled it out, and it's actually the hook that got cut in half because I was using a jig head. So it was amazing. So it's definitely a very well trusted connection between your braid. Where is it? And your leader line. So it's braid to mono or fluoro. Come on, man, focus. There you go. So this is a good connection between your braid and your mono or fluoro. I hope you like it. This is my very first tutorial actually, and hopefully I help you guys, not to lose fish like what I did in the past. So good luck.